Good morning. Have we let everyone in, Julie? Yeah, brilliant. Wonderful. Well, a very, very warm welcome to this session, which is beautifully entitled Business as Usual and Unusual, the Role for Not-for-Profit Support Providers. So nice little catchy title. We'll hopefully make sense of that as we run through our session this morning. So my name is Aisling Duffy and I'm the Chief Executive of Certitude, one of the organisations who are part of the Informal Provider Collaborative who are leading this session this morning. So rather than doing a round of introductions, I do ask that whenever you do speak that you introduce yourself at the beginning so we know who you are. I now know that there are some slides that I need to put up. So Julie, if you would kindly share your screen so we can just let people know about how we're going to be making sure people have a voice as far as possible in our session this morning. So this just shows you that our title today is Business Usual and Unusual. And the next slide, please, Julie. Or can I move? Oh. Perhaps I can. Lovely, thank you. Next slide. So you're very, very welcome to this session. If you know anyone's having some problems getting in, there's a telephone number and Wendy will help to get you into the session. Just a reminder as well that we are recording all these sessions so we can make them available for others who can't be with us today. So do be aware that whatever you say will be on record. Next slide. Thanks, Julie. We do know that it can be difficult to get your voice heard in a session over Zoom. So if you do have something you'd like to say, you can use anything yellow, just a post-it note will do if that's, or, shake your hand around. Bananas and rubber ducks are even welcome. Anything yellow will do, so you can get our attention. And we do commit to keeping to time. So this session will end at 11:45. Next slide, Julie. We do ask that everyone stays on mute if you're not speaking. And if you'd like to turn your video on, that would be wonderful. That way we can't see you whenever you shake your yellow rubber duck. But if you do want to go and make a cup of tea, have a snack, probably best to turn your video off. Thank you. And for those of you who maybe not as familiar with Zoom, there are a couple of different views. There's a speaker view or gallery view. So if you want to see people, everyone is here, you choose the gallery view. And whenever we're sharing screens and so forth, you will not be able to see everybody who's in the call. We're really keen to hear comments through chat, so please do use chat for questions and comments, and we will make sure that we respond to those in the session as far as possible, but we will also save them for future follow-up. If you do have any problems with your sound, there are various suggestions here around how you can try and resolve that. And sometimes headphones help, which is what I'm using. Thank you so much, Julie, for doing that for us. So to say a little bit more about our session this morning, we are a group of 5 voluntary sector organisations: McIntyre, Choice Support, CBT, United Response and Certitude, who have a long history of working alongside people and communities in different parts of the country. We fully support the Social Care Futures vision and believe we have such an important role in making it a reality. As support providers, we know that too often contracts for services get in the way of achieving this vision, with a lack of flexibility and a limited focus on outcomes. But we also know there is amazing innovation and creativity within our organisations and the people and communities that we work alongside. And we want to nurture and harness that creativity so it infects and impacts on much more of what we do. So from pockets of brilliance to being part of everything. We also believe that we can learn so much from each other and that collaboration is key to learning and improving. As such, as 5 organisations and as part of our wider VODG, so that's the Voluntary Organisation Disability Group, the umbrella body for disability organisations, So as 5 organisations working together and as part of the wider VODG membership, we have been sharing our ideas and approaches so we can learn from each other and break down and overcome some of the barriers that exist between providers. The pandemic has without doubt had its impact, but we've also learned so much, especially how to adapt programs at pace, and indeed some of the approaches that we will now need to keep doing in whatever the new normal looks like. I hope you really enjoy this session. There is so much expertise in the room. Today is about broadening all of our thinking and hopefully sparking some further action. We are all learning together. I will hand you over shortly to Sarah Burslam from McIntyre, who will say a little more about the concept of business as usual and unusual. This will then be followed by 2 presentations with the opportunity for questions. We will then have a short comfort break, after which we will hear from two more presentations. We will then end with a facilitated conversation in the plenary, drawing out to any key themes. So thank you, enjoy the session, and over to you, Sarah.
Thank you, Aisling. Morning, everybody. Yes, I'm Sarah Burslam and I'm the Chief Executive for McIntyre. Aisling, you were so calm there, which was amazing. What we do need to share with you is that we've had a bit of a change of plan overnight. So bear with us. We were going to use breakout rooms, but those people who were involved in some of the sessions yesterday, we will understand that we chose not to use breakout rooms. So yes, just to follow up on what Aisling was saying, you're going to hear from people today who are connected to 5 amazing organisations. As Aisling said, we are third sector organisations, and I think it's fair to say that it is in all of our DNA that we go over and above what is traditionally known as contractual responsibilities. And we do that for 2 reasons. Firstly, because most of us have charitable purposes that go beyond just delivering care. We have a purpose of campaigning, of influencing, and of bringing communities together. And also, as organisations, we actually don't think that our contract demands really are very person-centred or outcome-focused. So why would we not want to go above and beyond? So we have all been involved in projects that influence local communities to enable communities to be far more inclusive and aspirational places to be. And you're going to hear some of those stories today. What I want to draw out before I pass you over to the first story really is that we have, well, McIntyre, and I think I've talked to colleagues and they would agree, have seen some of these projects historically as business unusual. So they are projects, but we have learned so much from those projects. We've learned approaches and principles that I really hope are influencing our business as usual. And I'm just going to try and share a screen with you. Okay. Sorry, that's the wrong one. Okay, can everybody see the business as usual screen there? So in our projects, our business as unusual, what characterises all of them are that the importance of being connected, not cut off, being together, not apart, us, not them, citizen, not just service user, contributor, not just recipient, solution, not problem, ability, not disability. So I think we have all made a commitment that these underpinning principles will influence our business as usual. And the point being, if we have a collective push to work in this way, then it's more likely that more people will be able to live their social care future dream. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen and I'm going to introduce you to Rory Hutton, Pete Connor and Catherine Yates, who are people all connected to McIntyre. and I believe Rory is going to tell his story. So over to Rory and Pete, I believe.
Morning, everyone. Thanks for that, Sarah. I'm going to introduce Rory in a minute. I'll just tell you a little bit about my role first. My name is Pete Connor. I manage the Great Communities project over in Warrington, and Rory is an inspirational young man that we connect with on the Great Communities project. So he's going to share his journey today through a few pictures and tweets, ironically, that we've been doing on Great Communities. And so I'll hand over to you, Rory, and I'll chip in from time to time maybe as well, if that's okay.
Yeah.
We've got slides, Catherine.
Yeah. Okay. This is my journey. This is my journey from. Yep. The trigger. Oh sorry. This is my journey from. In 2018, I had an opportunity to work at Debenhams. I worked in the restaurant, which was at the very top floor, the only one in Warrington. And actually, and ironically, it was actually I think I got the job like 2 days before my birthday.
And what was your role within the restaurant, Rory? What was your key role?
Well, we had a few roles in the restaurant. We used to often like work on the floor, which is like serving and cleaning tables. And we even we did the pot wash as well. But that wasn't the best job in the world, really. And the most thing which I enjoyed, which I loved doing, was the beds. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good stuff. Can we move on to the next slide?
Oh, hang on. And I was loved there at Debenhams as well.
You love your job at Debenhams, didn't you? Yeah.
And everyone loved me as well.
Good stuff.
I joined Great Communities so I could juggle my job at Debenhams as well, and also join Great Communities as well.
So can you tell us a little bit about why you joined Great Communities and what you were doing initially?
Well, I wanted to like connect with my other friends as well who were met at college and school and all that, and we also I just wanted to like keep in touch really. We all do like friendship group, which is the picture on the left, which is like a meeting really. So we could like meet up at a studio somewhere in town, and also we did a kickabout, which is me in the gym, which is me in the sports hall, which I enjoyed. Well, though I only did it once, so hopefully it'll be back when it's all over. And also, which I also enjoy, was Kieran's Film Club, which is like it's held at a community centre in Warrington, which is like in the old school. We like watch films, and we have like different themes every month.
Brilliant. Thanks, Rory.
We have a good time. During the pandemic, when we had our first lockdown back in March, we had to be suspended from our work until further notice. But back in April, I've lost my job, and all the other, because when decided to decided to close the store permanently. But 10 days later, they made a U-turn to reopen the store. We all got our jobs back, so we had like the whole of May to look forward to. And that was the only time we felt positive.
And what happened then, Rory?
Oh, late May, they decided due to COVID, we had to shut the restaurant permanently. So we all lost our jobs now, and including not just the restaurant, also travel money as well, and travel.
Yeah. So it was quite a roller coaster ride for you, wasn't it?
It was. It really did had a profound effect on me during the pandemic. Really, I think I was literally like fed up since May. Really.
Mm-hmm. So what did you decide to do then? The picture on the right.
Yeah. Left, right, left. Right. Well, technically left, really. So I started to volunteer because I was approached. You approached me over during the pandemic when we were like allowed to meet outside. although we're still missing Debenhams really. So yeah, so this year it was really about being felt like, and then back in July they decided to reopen the restaurant once again and just invited a handful back rather than young people really. So I feel like we've just been stabbed in the back really. So
can we have the next slide, Catherine, please? So what did you decide to do then, Rory?
Well, I started to do like a cycling club, which was I was still in an employment at the time when you suggested I should run a cycling club. And this was us on the left at a racing track at my local pub, trying on our bikes, and we even had to go on the hand bikes as well. We did.
What about the picture on the right? Do you remember the conference?
Yeah, we went to Tat Lap as well. Well,
T-Lap, wasn't it? Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, I call it that.
And we did a little bit of work with Angela, didn't we, at Community Catalysts?
Well, I felt like I was in caught in it at that day.
Okay, can we have the next slide, please, Catherine?
So August, I kicked off. It all kicked off finally.
What was you doing in August?
Cycling club, obviously. Yeah. Although social distancing, really. So.
Definitely. What about the picture on the right? What else have you been doing with us on Great Communities?
I'm doing a lot of food banks, really. So, yeah, doing food banks. Yeah.
Okay. So, what's your role at Food Bank? What do you do?
Well, I help out the vulnerable, really. So, who have no money or anything, or who are struggling with money, and some of them have kids as well. So,
we make sure they have a food parcel, don't we?
That's right. Yeah.
Brilliant. Nice one. Next slide, please, Catherine.
What I like to do in the future, I'd hopefully like to get back into full employment, because I had fantastic friends who I like to mix with and all that. I'd like to go back into a Starbucks or Costa or anything like that. Yeah, because when I was at Devon's, I wasn't ready to leave at all. It just ended abruptly.
And the other thing on the left, Rory, do you remember what you've been doing with Angela at Community Catalyst lately?
Of course, we did a till kit really. So
you're going to show others how to start a social group, from your experience, and share your skills. Okay, brilliant. Thank you very much. Thanks, Catherine. If you've got any questions, please feel free to ask Rory. I'm sure he'll answer them. We'll go through them on the chat or anything like that.
Nice one. Thanks, guys. Have we still got a couple of minutes, Aisling and Sarah, for me to add a couple of things, if that's okay?
Yeah, a couple of minutes.
Sorry, I'll whiz you backwards through the slides. So thanks so much, Rory, for telling a bit about your story. As I guess you've explained, the idea behind the Great Communities Project is to co-produce with people. So it's to meet people, to connect with people who perhaps are feeling that they haven't got a lot of support, perhaps are feeling a bit disengaged or disenfranchised, and perhaps feeling a bit lonely and a bit isolated. So the project is focusing on connecting with people with a learning disability and or autism who don't get much social care support and don't meet the criteria for social care support in Warrington and also in Worcestershire too. So the approach is very much focusing on what people are good at and what people care about. And certainly you've seen that with Rory, the things that you care about, Rory, is the reason, getting people together and your cycling that have made such successful groups and have made a real difference to people in your community. And I think that's kind of been something that we have had to sort of get our heads around, in terms of when we've met people, or when Pete has connected with people, have sometimes we've had ideas about initiatives and suggestions that people could be doing within their community. But actually, it's been about supporting people to figure it out for themselves, and to identify what's important to them, and often about growing their skills and their confidence along the way. So these are some of the things that people have done as part of their connection with Pete, and also Jade, who's here from Worcestershire. And I think what's really important is that this isn't about great communities helping people. This isn't about Pete kind of coming in and saving the day. This is about people helping people, and about Warrington being a more inclusive place. And so the other part of Pete's role that's really key is linking with others within our community, and whether that's the community police officers who are wanting to connect with so-called hard to reach people, or whether that's businesses that are wanting to give back to their community in an environmental sense, and that it's very much led by the guys that he connects with, because a great communities friendship group wouldn't have the same power and be as inspirational as Molly's friendship group has been, and certainly Rory's cycling social as well.
Can I just jump in there, Catherine? It's really interesting, because I think Rory will agree with me on this. When we decided to do something together, looking at Rory's passions and skills and his talents, he was inspired by Kieran's film club, because remember, you said to me, didn't you, quite a while back, Rory, I'd like to lead on a project, which was great. And then we looked at Rory's skills and what he's passionate about. And I think the two things that you said, Rory, you like people, don't you? And obviously coffee. Being a barista, so we combine the two with the cycling social idea.
Brilliant. Yeah.
Sorry if I say something.
Yeah.
Well, because I did show some at Yellow, so right. Well, I thought I never knew how hard it was to lead on a project, but when I knew about it, when I had Pete as my right hand guy, so I felt like I could just do no wrong, really. So,
and you do a fantastic job, Rory.
Yeah.
Nice one. And certainly that confidence and inspiration is something that we're trying to share, and we really appreciate you coming today. So I'm hoping that you've kind of had a chance to read the slide that I've left up. I think it sort of kind of encapsulates some of the lessons that we've learned. I'll stop sharing my screen now, and if that's okay, hand back over to Sarah.
Thank you, Rory, Catherine, and Pete. And I know, going back to our concept of what we can learn from you, Rory, to make business as usual within McIntyre, I would love for every single person who connects with McIntyre to feel that they can lead and absolutely take the lead in something. It's been you're a great inspiration, and I really look forward to seeing your toolkit, and that's something that we'll be sharing with everybody across McIntyre. So brilliant. And there's some great comments in the chat group, actually, Rory, thanking you for your inspirational presentation. So thank you. And I think we're going to hand over to colleagues from Certitude now.
Hello, everyone. Hi, yes, my name's May. I'm Head of Practice Development at Certitude. Certitude is an organisation, not-for-profit organisation, that provides support to people with learning disabilities, autism and mental health issues across London. I'm going to speak to you today about how we've worked quickly to move one of our community connecting programs into an entirely online kind of offer, really. If you've got any questions or comments, please pop them in the chat and we'll try to address them in the session if we have time. Otherwise, we will answer them afterwards. So I'm going to share my screen, and to do that, I think I'm going to have to stop my video because I'm a bit worried about bandwidth. So here we go. Okay, so I'm going to work on the assumption that everyone can hear me and everyone can see my screen unless I hear otherwise. So let me just... in the social care future movement, the vision that we're working towards is this, about wanting to live in the place we call home with people and things that we love, and in communities where we look out for one another, doing things that matter to us. And it's the bit here, which is about being in communities and doing the things that matter to us, that I'm going to speak to you about in this session. And specifically, I'm going to be using the example of moving a face-to-face community arts program, community connecting program, into an entirely virtual offer. And that was a location, place, people-based, face-to-face offer that we were carrying out in London. And so essentially, I'm talking to you, I guess, about how we moved from business as usual to business unusual into maybe what we like to start seeing as the kind of new usual. So I'm feeling brave with my tech today. So I'm going to show you a video clip, a really short clip that will give you a flavour of what some of our virtual sessions have looked like. So I better get rid of that because Jake won't thank me for freezing on that frame. So I'll tell you now about what our Connect and Do program is. So you've got a picture of what things look like pre-COVID. It's a program of free workshops and activities that are open to everybody, and is very much about trying to connect people through shared interests and, you know, connecting in a way that can really help us in finding the common ground that just connects us all and helps us to meet as equals. So the Connect and Do program originally started in Lambeth several years ago as a way to kind of bridge the gap that we saw between, you know, traditional care spaces like day centres and also community spaces like leisure centres and libraries. And you know, being a community project, we've got lots of collaborations and partnerships, which you can see here. And the collaborations are between local, voluntary, statutory, community partners and our volunteers and our participants. Most of the activities are run by volunteers that we call peer facilitators, and who are part of our peer facilitator mentoring program. And so pre-lockdown, so all of our facilitators are experts by experience. So they've all received support within a health or social care setting in the past. And as I was saying earlier, pre-lockdown, Connect and Do activities were mainly running face-to-face from a community meeting space we have in Brixton and a local community centre in Bromley. And, you know, yeah, the sessions all involve people mixing and mingling in groups in real life. People would just turn up and drop in. Yeah, as well as there'd be a core group of regulars. And I guess I'm laughing because it's really hard to remember sometimes those days when people could just turn up without booking in advance and mingle with other people and hug, share pencils and paintbrushes. So I guess it's fair to say that our operating model was completely different then. As you can see from this programme, we had a lot planned in March. On the Tuesday before full lockdown, when we were all starting to be advised to work from home and not mix, we took the difficult decision to suspend our face-to-face activities. We put up a sign in the window of our main location to tell everyone that we'd review the situation in 2 weeks. And so clearly, little did we know how overly optimistic that was. We were really keen, though, from day one to make sure that people didn't feel abandoned or alone, and that you know, people who were used to coming to sessions or dropping into the space to hang out and see other people who lived across the boroughs and were used to us just being there, you know, that we were able to stay connected and engaged somehow. So what I'm going to do is I'll talk you through the stages that we went through in getting this programme online and some of the learning that we had along the way. So I think it's important to mention firstly that we were never intending to reach all of the people all of the time. We know there's a big digital divide across the country, and that computer savviness and tech savviness and access to tech and so on varies greatly. But I guess we were thinking beyond that and just thought, well, if we could reach some of the people some of the time, then at least we'd made a difference somewhere. So within almost a week of putting that sign up in the window, we'd mobilised the first version of our so-called virtual programme, which you can see here. For those of you who might be familiar with Agile project management, we worked in a sprint. So we focused on a very specific task with a very immediate timescale. We set up a project team and a team chat and communicated constantly with ourselves and others to get this in place really quickly. And we mapped out really early on that you can have different levels of interactivity online. So a bit like a continuum, where you can have something static and standalone at one end, and then full on live courses with loads of chat and interactions at the other end. So from art worksheets, which are quite static, to watching videos, which again is a bit static and passive, through to full on interactive sessions where you're like in a virtual room with others having a chat and a banter. And so that continuum has different levels of complexity in terms of organization and production time and so on. So we fixed on a really simple timetable initially of static content that we knew we could just get out there, which is what you're looking at now. And so, yeah, in terms of overall learning, I think that very much having that kind of iterative thinking, you know, building on what you've done and just reviewing and learning and just trying and testing was really, really helpful, just having that mindset. So yeah, this program you can see is all pre-prepared stuff, and you know, people could just watch videos, or you know, we'd post a poem that someone had written online just to kind of generate a sense of an online chatter and a kind of sense of community with others. And then we advertise this through our social media channels and try to release something every day. So in those times of uncertainty, we could help people feel positive and have something that was, yeah, that was kind of good news, I guess. So yeah, and I guess the other thing that we were thinking is that being available online, even though when I was saying earlier, we weren't expecting to reach all of the people all of the time, you are also more accessible and not less. So we had a bigger sense of community, I guess. You know, we were talking about how, when we were thinking about this, how you could be someone who knows us and had been coming to our sessions every week in Brixton or in Bromley, or you could have just be living in Canada and stumbling upon us and deciding to watch a Laughter Yoga video. So, you know, we had a really nice sense of that kind of serving a greater good and a wider community. And then we spent our April focused on generating enough content for this kind of static program. And we were really aware as well that any of us could get ill at any time. So we needed a really good, healthy virtual store cupboard so we could keep, you know, this static program running for a few weeks in advance at a time. And then once we got into a routine of producing that, we started to work on our next sprint, I guess, which is to increase the kind of level of interactivity that we were offering. Unfortunately, our organisation had moved to Office 365 last year. So it meant that we were really well set up for working at home overnight and being able to work as a team together and so on. But we quickly worked out, because we were using Microsoft Teams, we quickly worked out it wouldn't really cut the mustard, as it were, for what we wanted to do with our live sessions. It didn't have the level of functionality that we wanted with the number of people we wanted to engage with. So we went with Zoom, and the community development team worked really quickly to teach themselves more about it and how it could be used. And we were really lucky as well that one of our choir masters, who had been running choir sessions for us previously, had taught himself really quickly how to use Zoom. So we had an online training session with him and our peer facilitators and recorded that session so that we knew, you know, we'd have to do a kind of rolling program of Zoom training. So and that critical to our success would be having lots of other people who are confident and competent with using Zoom. So that was really helpful to have in the bag, as it were. So we started to run this small weekly program of live sessions in the first week of May, and they were mainly open to people we support across Certitude initially, with some people who were part of the wider Connect and Do program. And in week 1 of the sessions, we had about 12 people taking part, but by week 6, we had over 70 as people got familiar with what was on offer and getting, you know, and they'd got to grips with the tech and they got used to us being there. And then this is our current program. And we've got plans to introduce things like art tours and a 4 to 6 week long course in things like sewing. We didn't want access to materials to be a barrier, and you know, we didn't want to kind of limit say, art and craft activities, the kind of basic things that people might have at home available. So we've got together session packs that we post out to people, so they've got everything they need to join in with us online. Talking about the digital divide, you know, we also purchased a load of Chromebooks, so that access to tech isn't a barrier to peer facilitators being able to lead on sessions. So they've got the kit that they need to run sessions from home. And we're offering training to people in how to use the devices and Zoom, so that they can take part and build their skills and their confidence. And we're also doing things like getting activity books together based on the vast amount now of session content and worksheets that we've produced over the last 6 months, which we're posting out to people across London. And here's a picture of one of our art packs with some worksheets that have been developed by an artist who's a peer facilitator with us. And I'd never heard, I don't know if you can see, but I'd never heard of Zentangles before, but they are brilliant. So I recommend you look them up if you have never heard of them before. They're quite addictive. And this is what our sewing course pack looks like. So everything you need to make 3 zip pouches and 3 masks, which I thought was a quite on-trend topic. I just thought I'd very quickly take you through the work we've been doing with the Young Vic Theatre. Whoops, getting ahead of myself. So the Young Vic is a theatre in London that does really brilliant stuff at trying to make theatre accessible to everybody. And we were in a year-long project with them, and they'd partnered us up with a writer and a director to work with a bunch of people to run theatre workshops culminating in a live play at the Young Vic. And I think, you know, we think of theatre as pretty physical, so I thought it was a really good example of how you can move a session that's entirely kind of in person to something that's online. So after a few weeks in lockdown, you know, we restarted the sessions over Zoom, and these are the activities that they did. So they made a video that we posted online, and invited responses, partly as a way to keep the group going and also to warm everyone up to working together again and make that transition across into a sort of digital space. And then, as you can see from this list, there's a really nice variety of interactive and sometimes physical exercises to get people engaged and creative. And now the plan's to make a film rather than have a live performance. So watch this space, see what happens. And just final couple of slides. Overall learning, I think absolutely being able to use our resources differently and redefining what we offer was really essential to success. The City Bridge Trust, which is the City of London's charitable arm, City of London Corporation, they grant fund our peer mentoring scheme, and they've been really flexible and supportive. So all the tech devices that I talked about and buying materials for the art packs and so on has all but come from being able to use that grant flexibly and differently to what we'd originally intended. I think it's really good to kind of think about what we did well, and we can, and it showed that we showed ourselves, I guess, that we can mobilize and adapt very quickly. And I'm really pleased at what we were able to put into place so quickly from knowing hardly any of it. You know, we're working from scratch really, and I'm really proud of how the team worked together to make it work, and the impact it's had on people. The other learning is we could have been doing this earlier. Why did we never set up an iPad in the corner of an in-person art session so that people who couldn't face leaving their house that day, or you know, or couldn't be bothered to travel across London, you know, could join from the comfort and safety of their own home and still be part of something. So now we're going to use that learning and our ideas to kind of think maybe about our wider business, some areas of our wider business, and just see where it takes us. You know, maybe look into how a more blended or mixed approach can be used to support people. And already, actually, I'm starting to hear really lovely stories of how people we support who live at home with their families are really enjoying some kind of one-to-one virtual support and being able to do things and pay attention, I suppose, in some ways to doing some things that they would never have been able to before. So that's been really nice learning. Having said that, we know that it's not for everyone, and some people who used to be involved before don't want to be at the moment. But I guess that's the bit where thinking more about what a kind of blended or mixed offer comes in. That's where that comes in, essentially for people to have more choice. But you know, the other thing is our geographical reach has expanded and we've attracted new people, which is so nice. And we've also learned that the majority of people who attend sessions return, which is really, really encouraging. So we learned there was an appetite for sessions because at the beginning we had no sense at all about how this would fly, and attendance has steadily grown, and you know, 100% of participants have said they've enjoyed the sessions. 99% have said that they felt an improvement in their well-being. So all that's been wonderful. I won't go through all this, but I suppose I'm just showing it just to say that we have compiled a load of session tips. So if anyone's interested in actually learning on, you know, or hearing more ideas on how to make actual sessions work online, we've got some tips we can share with you. And then there's some contact details for Connect and Do, myself and my colleague Jake, who's the community development manager, who's really involved in running these sessions. So feel free to get in touch if you want to find out more details. Thank you. That's the end of mine. I'll stop sharing. Here we go. Back to Sarah, I think, is it? I could do a song. I don't know if anyone's coming
Sarah,
in.
you're on mute. Sarah, you're on mute.
Oh gosh, how embarrassing. I wondered how many times we were going to be saying that today. I've just been, there's been some great comment in the chat, May and Jake. Lots of really positive comments, and I think you know, incredible that shift so quickly was made, and lots of people are asking about whether they can join in and connect people, and I think Jake's been doing a great job in replying. So fantastic. And I think the learning you teased out there about why were some of these things not happening before, and I think that we've got two more stories and two more people to listen to, and then at the end we're going to also be looking at Our Voices video, which I think people will hear even more about some of the things that we've all learned during that lockdown experience. So amazing, thank you for that. I think we were going to have a break now. I think I don't quite know how comfort breaks work in the virtual world. I'm assuming people just close their video off for 5 minutes, or you make yourself a cup of tea, go to the toilet, whatever. So I think we probably only need 5 minutes, if that's okay. If we come back, do you think, Ashley, if we come back at 10:35 to give our speakers enough time, then to do some feedback and to finish off with our Voices video, I think will be, if we have 5 minute breaks, so people just turn the videos off for 5 minutes, we'll come back at 10:35.
Perfect. Thank you, Sarah.
So what time do we need? What time do you want us back?
10:35, Rory, if that's okay. Just enough time to make a cup of tea and do whatever. Okay.
Yeah, I think I might need to nip the toilet. Yeah, so.
Okay, thanks.
See ya. In a bit.
Okay, I think we'll kick off again. So I hope everyone's been able to have their comfort break, get themselves a drink, etc. So we are now handing over to our colleagues from CVT, I believe. Hello, Hugh, and
hi everyone.
Fiddle somewhere. So over to you.
Yeah, good morning, everyone. I'm Hugh John. I'm the CEO with Camper Village Trust. So we support people with learning disabilities and or autism and mental health support needs across England in quite a wide variety of environments, really, different settings, which is quite interesting. I'm going to hand over in a second, but our project is a little bit different in as much that what we're sharing with you today is about a really exciting and innovative way, we think, that we've brought people together to sort of co-develop a project called Everyday Matters. And it's about sometimes what gets in the way of people having that community connection and having the life that matters to them and achieving the objectives as set out in the social care futures, really. So this is about how we came together to look at sometimes how can we unblock the stuff that enables people to have the lives that are important to them. So I'm going to pass over to Phil, to Emily, and to Christelle. Thank you.
Thank you, Hugh. As you said, my name's Phil Gibson. I work as a project coordinator for everything co-production across Campbell Village Trust. It's really great to see so many people that I've spent some time with in the past. It's great to see you again, and I really look forward to the days when we can properly get back in a space and share this creativity, because it's such an amazing group of people that we've gathered here today. Shortly, I'm going to introduce you again to Emily and to Christelle, but I just wanted to give you some further background. As May already shared with us, the Social Care Futures talks about a mission or a value that says that we all want to live together in a place we call home. We want to do the things that we love in communities where we look out for each other, doing the things that matter to us. So the project that we've developed is called Everyday Matters, because every day is the little things that matter to all of us. But sometimes those things are not the same. Sometimes they can be different from person to person, and sometimes the perception of what should matter to somebody can be different from different people. So at this point, I just wanted to pass you over to Emily, who lives in St Albans, and I think you're going to share with us some of the things that really do matter to you.
Yeah. So there's a lot of things that is important to me. So my name is Emily, and I would like to talk about the things that is really important to me. The number one thing that really matters to me is love and support, and the people who motivates me to keep on going in life and to be strong no matter what. I have underlined support, because in Camp Hill there should be a lot of great support that help and guide the residents to make a great life and to use the skills to make a life they want to live, and to use the skills to make a life they want. I just said that. And now that's the next thing that's important to me, is to learn to make a great life for myself and to be independent and to grow as a person so I can live to the fullest. I want to chase my dreams. My dreams is very important to me. I want a life where I can make my own way like anyone else in the world. I'm making decisions. But that means a lot of hard work and dedication to make those dreams become true for me and other people who want their dreams to become true. One of my dreams is to work hard on my studies, as education is really important to me. And the things that I believe in. Believing in something is a very special feeling, like freedom, where you can take it anywhere you want. Like my poetry. My poetry is my biggest dreams of mine, and it's really important to me to keep on writing. One of the things that's also important to me is the arts, theatre, music, and dance. Yes, I am a writer, but I also love to get up and move. I love my dancing, my performing arts course, and seeing shows at the West End and to get physical. Dancing and my poetry is my best way to express myself, to share my feelings with the world, because I want to share to the world that someone like me, someone with a disability, can do anything they want in the world. Yes, we have expectations and limits, but why can't we change that and change the world Thank you for listening.
There you go, Emily. You're getting a big round of applause. You just made my job really hard, because nobody's going to listen to me now. They just want to hear you speak again. So thank you, Emily. And I think the strapline for Camp Hill Village Trust is a life of opportunity, and the work that we do, that every member of staff, every family member, every person that works alongside the people that we support, is to create the life of opportunity that Emily so eloquently portrayed. But sometimes, as I say, the views are different. So what a family member may feel is important could be different to what us as a support provider may feel is important, which could be different to the things that the commissioners also want to fund. So the Everyday Matters project was brought together to try and help us as a support provider to think about how we can coordinate all of those different views and opinions, keep the person at the centre, but creatively work together to help Emily and her friends achieve the things that they want to live the life of a life of opportunity. So unfortunately, now I'm going to use the tech. Now, we've got a short promo film I want to show you, but it was made specifically to use with Teams, given the current times, and doesn't transfer easily over onto Zoom. So I can't screen share. What you're going to have to do is look at my small thumbnail and watch from there. So hopefully I'm not going to see loads of confused faces. I'm going to pin my screen, which hopefully should mean that that you will see it larger, and hopefully everything will work as
Every day matters. Whether it's making a cup of tea, spending time with friends and family, looking after your health, or deciding what to eat for dinner, everyday things matter. Some people, support is needed to undertake these daily tasks, to enable them to live the life they choose. When people require help, whether you're a family member, friend, or support worker, what really matters is that everyone communicates effectively and works together positively. Putting this into action is not always easy. Disagreements can occur. Often this starts with differing opinions about what is in the person's best interest, or what choices the person has made, or even how they were supported to make these choices. When disagreements do happen, communication can break down and trust can be lost. At these times, it's vital to work together to prevent disagreement escalating into conflict. Maintaining positive relationships and respecting individual rights takes confidence and skills. To help staff develop these key skills and confidence, Camp Hill Village Trust has co-produced a film and workshop, Everyday Matters.
Aren't you supposed to make sure she eats healthily?
I'm supposed to make sure she's got healthy choices available, sure.
The film addresses some of the key areas where disagreement can occur and features 3 scenarios based in supported living settings that address themes including healthcare, choices, and relationships.
And how long has this situation been going on?
They've gotten a lot closer over the last month or so.
The film also features interviews with family carers and staff looking at the complex issues from different perspectives, with helpful insights into what works. In making the film, we have involved supported people, families, and support workers at every stage. We also collaborated with the families organisation Learn With Us and Centre 404 in London. The film will be used to support a workshop in which the skills and abilities of support workers to effectively communicate, resolve conflict are explored.
hopefully you should be hearing me now, and you can see me again. Emily, I jumped across something you were going to say to introduce that film. Would you like to say it now for us?
So I was going to say, this is why for people supported by Camp Hill Village Trust, their families and support workers decided to co-produce a training film called Everyday Matters. A film which I star in looks at how we all can work together, especially when there are different opinions about what is important.
Thank you, Emily. And I think there's two important points there that we wanted to mention. First of all, this is a very co-produced project. So we started with focus groups made up of family carers, of support workers, and people supported. And we looked at many of the issues that are important to people. And we looked at particularly some of those pinch points when the different opinions can not necessarily end in conflict, but they end in a situation where communication is key and building trust is of paramount importance. The working title for the film for the first 6 months was Sex and Drugs and Sausage Rolls. And primarily because the things that were coming out as the important things, and Emily, you may be able to share some of these or not, but were things like relationships, were ongoing healthcare and the decisions around healthcare, and also important things like food and healthy lifestyles and diet. We didn't stick with the title, as you can see, and Everyday Matters, I think, is a far better fit for us. We've had to adapt it, as everyone, as May was saying. This was all ready to go back in March as a face-to-face workshop. So the film supports a workshop that we were going to do with all of our staff, all of our supporters, potentially with family carers. We've had to adapt it so that now we can deliver it via Zoom. And we believe it actually works just as well. You know, the face-to-face interaction, you know, would be lovely, but actually still through the screens, we can use the film to evoke conversations that get people talking about the real issues and how we can potentially resolve issues and how we can, you know, put something together through a form of a plan that would help Emily and her friends live that life of opportunity. I'm just really going to quickly, before handing back to Emily to finish off our part of the session, share with you some of the skills that we share through the workshop that the film supports. So hopefully you should now be seeing my screen. A thumbs up from somebody would be really nice. And should have started it from the beginning. Sorry, maybe I should have done like May and close down my video first. So the key skills that we teach through that the film supports are that it's important for people to listen to really understand. To do that, you have to ask the right questions. You then have to restate the facts back tactfully, try and focus on the positive, the things that we're trying to achieve together, and try and focus on the future. So not, you know, the past and the historical things are important to learn from, but the future is the really important thing that we need to concentrate on. So the workshop materials include things, just some simple tips really, you know, so for example, that anger is a powerful emotion, and when somebody is angry, it can be all consuming, and it can be born out of any reason, feeling of hurt, fear, anxiety. And in order to diffuse the person's anger, it is really, really important to listen, hear people out and let them vent. And if we're going to do that, we need to ask the right questions. So questions like, can I ask what upset you so much? Or why is this particular issue so important to you? And then invite the other person to really go deeper into the problem so we can really start to explore what the real issue is, because sometimes the real issue may not be the thing that's presenting itself at that exact moment. So again, to then state back the facts with tact, to really listen and then state back own what's yours. So if we've made a mistake, or if there's something that's gone wrong, or if there's something we should have done better, own that, apologize, and then really try to move on. But the listening is the really key point, and the only way that we know we've got that shared understanding is by stating back the facts. As I said before, accentuate the positive. Try to highlight what the positive aspect of the issue, but without dismissing what's caused any upset or anxiety in the first place, and focusing on the future. Sometimes you will not always manage to resolve a dispute at the time, but it's important that you don't let it go, but you can focus on the future, you can move on, and you can come back to the resolution stage at some point when it is appropriate. And the key thing is, if we all keep communicating, if we all work together, we will achieve positive outcomes. We will enable more people to achieve the everyday matters. Building up relationships is incredibly important to us as a support provider, as a charity, but just as people. And our general hope is that taking all of our staff through this workshop will just develop the interpersonal skills, even in their own lives. So it's not always about work. It's very vital to get it right from the start. Sometimes if we don't get it right, we recognize through the training that conflict or disagreement can arise, and then we introduce the skills such as staying calm, apologize, listen and respond, avoiding the blame game. Blaming other people is never going to help us move on to the next stage, and always try to address the problem, not the person. So look at what the problem is that we're trying to address, and take the personalities away from that. And the final thing that we leave is this is not an art. It is an art. It's not a science. There's no, as Chris Whitty would say, we can't always rely on the next slide, please, to tell us exactly what we should be doing. But actually, we need to encourage our staff to view things in a way where they will have the confidence to make the right decisions, to work with people to achieve positive outcomes. So at that point, I know we're not doing plugs, but I would say that we would welcome at any point speaking to any of the people if you're interested to learn more about this as a resource. But I wanted to pass back to Emily, because I know you mentioned already that one of the really important things to you is poetry. And I think you may have prepared a poem, one that's been published before in books, but you wanted to finish off our session by sharing with us. Yeah. So over to you, Emily.
I really do. Because before I start reading my poem, this poem's actually quite famous on my YouTube channel at the moment. It's got about 1.2 thousand views, and that is really incredible. So I just want to say that about my YouTube channel. That's great, because I've got a lot of poems, not just this one. But this is a very important one, so I'm gonna read it out now. So this poem is called Disability Poem. Who do you call a disability? Why do you call me a disability? It's like you're calling me a nobody, or stupid, or dumb. I am no disability. I am just me. Let's just separate disability. We have the dis and we have the ability. It's like we don't have abilities, but you know what? We do have abilities. But you know what? Yeah. We do have abilities. We can do anything if we put our hearts to it. Everyone has a heart to follow. We all have love, hope, and believing in our dreams. Why do you step up to me and say that we can't do that? You are hurting our feelings. We all are human. This is our world too. Stop treating us like we're kids. Stop treating us like we are stupid. Stop treating us like we are nobody. We live in this world together. Stop hating us for who we are. We can't change with who we are. I have a disability. I have accepted it. This is who I am. Deal with it.
Thank you, Emily. And I just saw a message from Lindsay. I think it was Lindsay. Somebody asking if we can share the details of your YouTube channel. So with your permission, I presume that the PowerPoint slides and notes will be going out with the recording. So I'll add those to our information if that's okay with you, Emily.
Can I say it?
Fantastic.
No, I'm reading the comments.
Thank you. Hugh, is it back to you or Sarah or?
Do you want to say anything, Hugh, before I do?
No, I just hand back to you, Sarah, I think.
Wow, Emily, that was amazing. I've got goosebumps. So that was fantastic. Thank you. And I look forward to reading some more of your poems. I think what you have just expressed so wonderfully is you mentioned love a lot of times, and yes, absolutely so important for us all to have love in our lives. And I think the living a life of opportunity and fulfilling your dreams, and I think we heard that from Rory as well this morning, so thank you both. And I guess it's incumbent on all of us to think how can we make that just the everyday, how can we make that just the business as usual. So thank you so much for sharing so much of your thoughts and feelings with us, and for your poetry. Wow, that was amazing. And thank you, Philip, as well. Thank you. I think we are now going to hand over to colleagues from Choice Support.
Thank you, Sarah. My goodness, Emily, you are a very hard act to follow, but we will try our best. My name's Sarah Maguire. And I'm the Chief Executive at Choice Support, and we support people with learning disabilities, autism, and mental health around the country. I am joined, well, I will be in a minute, I'm sure, on this screen by two of my colleagues, Dan and Mandy. We're going to end the four presentations by just taking you through a change that we're going through, again in the business and usual to usual, or the other way around. That's about thinking about, as an organisation, acknowledging that we've got a bit stuck in the way that we're supporting people, and it's very clear from what people are telling us we're not achieving. We've heard from Rory and Emily in particular about the importance of community, of love, of hopes and dreams. And so what we're trying to do is to create a movement of change within the organisation that starts with people that we support and their supporters, to really look at delivering things in a very, very different way, in a way that places decision making close to people, that really supports the notion of communities and looking at autonomy in all its shapes and forms. Mandy and Dan have recently taken up some new posts within the organisation that we're calling Pathfinders, that are about working with and helping colleagues within the organisation think about some of the changes. But I'm going to stop talking and hand over to them and let them share what they've been doing and some of the changes that have been happening over the past 18 months.
Hi everyone, I'm Dan Johnson. As Sarah said, I'm one of our Pathfinders. I'm going to be completely honest with you right now. I'm a mess standing here right now. I've got Ian Drury songs going around in my head, thanks to Phil. Thanks to Rory, I want to walk out of my office and get out on my bike. You know, I like my cycling. And Emily, I have no idea what to say after that poem. I'm just a mess. So thanks to all of you. So I have no idea what's going to happen in the next 10 minutes. I'm going to start with an apology because I do stand up when I work. And I know that I tend to move around a lot. So if I move around too much and I start to make some of you feel a bit seasick because you're on Zoom, somebody please just shout at me. But the more excited I get, the more I move. So I'm just all over the place right now. So I'm one of our pathfinders, so Manny, do you want to introduce yourself as well?
Yeah, I'll just say a quick hello to everybody. As Dan says, I've been blown away. It's the first time I've joined this this session, and I have been absolutely blown away today with what I've seen and what I've heard. And so just so far, thank you for everybody who's contributed. It's been amazing.
It has, it really has. It's been great listening to all the stories. So we wanted to talk to you about what Mandy and I do in our role, but and I know this is the Social Care Futures online festival, but I'd like to take you back and talk about a little bit of history or something that's kind of happened in the past. About 10 years ago, there was an organisation in the Netherlands that they were called Bertzorg, and they started looking at a different way of working, and they started these things called self-managed teams. And we started hearing about it, and we thought that's quite interesting, so we started talking about it. And we haven't got many slides, but I'm just going to share a slide to help me kind of talk you through what I mean by this. I'm going to do that, and I'm going to find the right one, and I'm going to do that. And hopefully you'll all be able to see my shared screen now. Is that okay? Can people see that? Yeah, lovely. So Bertzorg started talking about self-managed teams, and the idea being that actually, if the choice and the control is really close to the people we support, then actually the team is going to be able to manage themselves, and they're going to be able to work in a far more flexible and far more interactive way and get rid of loads of hierarchy. So we thought this was really interesting. And then it came over to the UK with Bertzorg UK. And then I'm sure you've heard of Helen Sanderson. She started wellbeing teams, and using this really started getting us thinking. So we started thinking about how can we implement this and how can we use this approach at Choice Support. Choice Support is quite a large organisation. We've got, I'll get corrected on this, but nearly almost 3,000 staff across the country. Yeah, Sarah's nodding, good. And we support around 2,300 people. So how can we possibly turn into an organisation that is more self-managing? So we started on this journey a couple of years ago. And what we actually found was when we started talking to people about self-management, it was really scary for them. Our staff were asking questions like, well, doesn't this just mean you want to get rid of managers and you want to save money and you want us to do all the paperwork and you want us to do everything? And that's not what we were asking, but just this term, this phrase, self-management, kind of meant that to people. So we had a rethink. And we started talking about self-direction. We thought that would solve it. We won't talk about management because it's scary for people and it's about getting rid of managers. We'll talk about self-direction, where people have got more direction and they can direct themselves. But actually what we found was, it was just a change of word. So we crossed that out. And we thought, well, what are we going to do here? Because actually we're really passionate about this. And we really want to kind of show people that this can work. But again, it was just something we were doing to people. We were telling people, you're going to become self-directed. So we thought, I know, we've got it this time. We'll talk about autonomy. We'll talk about people having autonomy. That will do it. That will work. And then people will understand the idea that we're trying to get across to them. But we still found that people were just hung up, well, self-management, self-direction, autonomy. All it means is getting rid of managers and our support staff doing all of the work without a manager. And that's not what we want to do. That's not our journey. That's not where we're going at all. So we had a rethink, and this is coming out of our brains all the time. It's constantly about thinking differently. And we came up with actually, well, what is it we actually are trying to do? And actually, what we're trying to do, in a nutshell, we're just trying to put the decision making as close to people we support as possible. There was a comment in the chat earlier from Lindsay. Lindsay was saying she would like to see more services run and led by people that the services are actually for. Actually, that's what we're trying to achieve. We're trying to put the decision making as close to people we support as possible. The reason for this is that we work in one of these structures where, yes, we have people we support and we're very used to working in a person-centered way. But actually, if we want to make a decision, the person says something, they talk to their staff, the staff will talk to their manager might think, I'm not quite sure about that, and go to their kind of regional manager. The regional manager might scratch their head and say, I'm not sure if that's my decision to make. And then they might talk to their director, and then their director might go, hang on a minute, I'm not quite sure, I'd better talk to Sarah, and Sarah go, this is probably a board decision. And eventually we're going to make it all the way up to the board, and then the board will tell Sarah something, and then it'll come all the way back down the line again, and eventually the manager can tell someone what they're allowed to do. We want to flip that. We want to make that process much easier for people. We want that process to be, I'd really like to do this, and then the staff supporting that person can go, yes, actually, we can help you with that. We can work it out ourselves without having to go through this massive long chain of asking other people's permission. We want to become an organisation that isn't, no offence, Sarah telling us all what to do. We want to become an organisation where at a real local level, people can make decisions and people can really, really support people to do the things they want to do in the easiest and quickest manner, so we don't have to go through this whole process.
If I could just come in there, Dan.
Go for it, Mandy. I was about to ask.
There's I've been involved with a group for about 1.5 years now that we've been looking at like emerging in a different way of working, and this was a team that got quite some negative labels attached to them, that depended on the manager to constantly give them direction, instruction. We have done, well, the team have put together a presentation with the people that live at the house, and they've all talked through how it's been and what it's felt like. And if we could show you the team before 1.5 years ago and the team now, you would think this is a completely different group of people. So these are people who decided what the purpose was. What was it that got them out of bed on a morning? What gave them the passion to come to work? And they decided, one of the group said, we just want to make people happy. And we thought, great, but then when you unpicked that a bit, you can't just say to somebody, you're going to be happy today. I can't just suddenly say, right, Dan, you're happy now. But what we can do is we can look at providing those opportunities to create those moments of happiness. And that's what their purpose became. Once they've got that focus and they're very clear on what the purpose was, that's when they started to challenge these sort of systems and processes and start to say, well, why do we need to do that? Or why do you need to do that? Why, we can discuss it with the people that live here and they can make that decision. Why does it need to be somebody else? What it's done over this 1.5 years is it's created a team who have become really, really creative in the thinking. They ask the whys now, and Dan said this once before, and I think this is something that it's a fantastic way of looking at things. But we have, organisations have audits, they like to measure things. But what Dan mentioned a couple of weeks back was, what about the people that live there? Why let them be the ones that tell us how things are? We don't need somebody else to go in and audit how things are going. Let the people that are living there be the ones that say, do you know what? This is what's going well. This is not what's going well. This is what I want. This is what matters to me. But what we've definitely found with this, and we were involved at the very beginning with the self-managed, the self-directed, the autonomous. But it's by attaching a label, we're making it a thing, and we don't want to make it a thing. We want it to be an experience that people are going through. And that's exactly what it is. What they've done together is they've created a storyteller. So they celebrate, they have a section where they're celebrating the really positives, and they're celebrating that together. Everybody's celebrating it together. And I can't stress enough how this group has completely changed. It changed in the thinking, and as I say, the creativity, the work together, they ask the why, and they are most definitely, the focus is putting the people who they're supporting at the centre of everything that they do. And I think it's really important to get that across, because it's very difficult. We don't want to give a label to it, but it needs to be explained. And I think now, on reflection, having seen what today's entailed, it would have been lovely to have a couple of the team as part of this, to talk to you about what's been real for them and how it's felt for them.
Thanks, Mandy. Yeah, I think that's a great point you made about the fact I think the exact words I used with the team was, wouldn't it be great if, instead of auditing you to death and having quality come in and bean count, wouldn't it be great if your audit was a chance to show off how brilliant you are? What if that's how we audited the places we manage, and we just said to the people that live there and the staff, show us how great your service is? And that was always our starting point. And I think that's real key to me. So what we're actually asking people is to change the way they think, because yes, we've all been through loads and loads of different ways of working in the past, and some of them are great. You know, person-centered planning was a huge thing, and I really love it. But actually, the beauty of this project is that it's also about our staff well-being. I'm just going to share one other slide. And I'm only going to share it for a minute, because what we're actually asking our staff to do now, and certainly at Stockingate, where Mandy was the old traditional manager, but he's now more of a coach to them, we're asking them to bring their whole self to work, and we're asking them to think differently. Traditionally, and in the past, what we've done is we've come to work and we've done things. We've done medication, we've done eating and drinking, we've done the speech and language guidelines, we've done this, we've done that. But actually, we haven't been at work. We've just been told what to do, and we've done it. What we're asking our staff to do is to start being at work. And that's a real big difference for them. It's a real big shift, because what we're asking them to do is not just come to work. We're asking them to almost, that their role becomes part of them. I know Mandy's got some great examples of the lady, and she doesn't mind us sharing this. She's put it in their presentation, who was coming to work and was quite anxious when she came to work, and it's because of some circumstances that had changed, which meant she had to leave her dog, which was used to having somebody with it. And when she started talking about that, people were like, okay, well, why not just bring it with you? Well, because that's against our policies and procedures. Well, actually, are those things stopping you doing your best work? Or actually, if you talk to the people that live here, would they be happy for you to bring your dog to work with you? And actually, that dog has now become a really important part of that service. And the people love it being there, to the point that they're thinking, actually, you know, we miss it when it's not here. We might want to get our own dog all the time, and then have this other one that comes in as well. But really asking staff to bring their whole self to work, to share their passions, and to think about how those passions can really shine through. And actually, when we're talking about the decision-making chain, actually, it doesn't need to be a manager that's doing everything. We've got one member of staff who's really interested in medication, so they now do all the medication audits, freeing up the manager to do other things, and they support and train and mentor the other staff. So we're really trying to encourage people to think about how we can flip the entire organisation on its head.
I think the thing about bringing your whole self to work, maybe a way of describing it again with the group that have already been working this way, is that what they used to say was they felt like when they arrived at the bungalow door, before they opened that door and came in, or knocked on the door and came in, they had to leave the real person outside, all their emotions, and come through that door and be the professional. And we did lots of talking about what that does to you, because I mean, as humans, we're like emotional creatures, and it's our emotions that like connect us to ourselves and also connect us to other people. And if what you're doing is trying to suppress those emotions when you're coming in, you might, you know, because you're trying to suppress some emotions, you could be suppressing the emotion of joy, happiness. So actually that person that's now in that bungalow is not the person that they really are. And slowly they started to talk about things and work it out together. And what that's done is created what they call, they feel safe with each other now. They feel safe to be who they really are. And as Dan says, you know, if somebody notices somebody's not quite themselves that day, it's, you know, is there anything we can do? Can we help? And it's just created this really close group of people, again, who by being there for each other and supporting each other, that automatically has an impact on the atmosphere. Because if you've got a group of people who are not being themselves, who are not being true to themselves, it's got to affect how they're presenting in the bungalow. And what it's done, it's just created this much happier, calmer atmosphere. And again, when we spoke to asking the people that live at the bungalow what feels different now, it's the feeling that you know we're interested in, what feels different. And there's some of the things they're saying. It's happier, there's a lot more smiling, it's much more fun. They'll mention, oh, Mary's done so and so, or they'll mention things about the people's lives, and it becomes much more, it's a much happier, freer, and by that, it opens those, it opens people's minds to what's possible now. Instead of feeling, I can't do this, this is not what I'm supposed to do. This way of doing things now has definitely opened people's minds, and now they sort of think, oh, I'm going to have a go at that. This we could do this. Maybe we can do that. And I know somewhere earlier on in one of the discussions was about community connections, and one of the things the team did, they did a little piece of work around gifts of the head, hand and heart. So they talked about what they were good at with the hands, what they were good at, you know, what the heart, and from that came things about each other that they didn't know about each other. And one of them was one of the staff was really an absolutely fantastic knitter. The things she makes, you know, are amazing. And just from that one little thing, they started making connections with the local community. They got a room. They linked it to an older person's afternoon bingo session that the local community held, and they were going to open a knitting club. They got the sessions booked, and then obviously COVID happened, and now that's been put on hold. But it's just another example of how the creativity started to flourish because they started to think more openly, and again about what's possible and what they can do, you know, what the connections that they can make with the local community, as opposed to just being a group that live there and that's it. They wanted to open those doors and be part of that community and build those connections.
I've just seen a few comments in the chat asking why is really important. Why do we do what we do? And actually one of the first things we do with any team is work with them, and it's actually a really difficult exercise, but work with them and work with the people they support to agree their purpose. And actually that's something we're looking at for the whole organisation as well, our organisational purpose. It is a really difficult process to really think about why you do what you do and take it right back to its real beginnings. But when we do it, and when people really understand their purpose, they know why they're doing what they're doing, and every decision they make, they can link back to it. That is so important.
I think one of the stories they like to tell is about Christmas time. There are 4 people that live in this bungalow. They've lived together for over 20 years, so they're very close. They know each other really well. 3 of the individuals go home to family for 2 weeks over the Christmas period, and just one lady stays at the bungalow. And they just started talking together with the lady, with the other people, and just this decision was made that once they'd spoken to her, would you like to come and spend Christmas with me and my family? And They did. She did. The lady did. She went home for Christmas. She had lunch with one family, and then the afternoon Christmas Day with another family. And again, I wish they were here to tell you about that themselves, because the sheer joy and that real sense of belonging for that lady. But it also had an effect on the other people that always go home, because what they said is when they go home at Christmas and New Year, they worried about her and thought, you know, she's on her own. So it actually had an effect on everybody in a really positive way. But again, when the staff talked about this and they said, we've often thought this, but we thought that we weren't allowed to do this. But what they're doing now is they're showing, again, the creativity, they're asking the why and the challenging. And it is all about putting the control as close to the people, the support as possible, and creating those moments of happiness. And you know, there's lots of examples that we could talk about that they've shown how they've managed to do that.
So I think one of the things that's been the I think we're there now, that's been hardest probably for our trustees to understand, and people throughout the organisation, and it's come up in the chat, is that people have been asking us, and we were asked directly, Mandy was there with our trustees, well, where's your project plan? What's happening? How are you going to roll this out? And what we're saying with this is, just because I wish it so does not mean it will be so. This isn't my change. This is the change of people we support and their teams and their families. And so it's that sort of movement. So although, yes, of course, this isn't just a sort of a free for all and we're all over the place, we do have some thoughts and ideas, but we are kind of moving so that what we can see, we started in Wakefield and we started with teams there. And again, because of COVID and our use of Teams literally and chat, what we're seeing is the influence that other support workers are having on other people, are saying, well, that's interesting, so you do all that yourself. So we've got, you know, where teams perhaps would have said, well, I'm not doing the rota myself, that's not my job. People want to do that because actually that affects the lives of the people that they're supporting. And the last part of the jigsaw with the team that Mandy's been working is to devolve the budgets. All budgets will go down to that local level, and that's been quite scary, not just for the teams, but it's certainly scary for an organisation like ours that's got a centralised finance function where everything's been held very close. But again, if we're going to do this and do this properly, we can't pick and choose the bits that we keep this and we let you have that, and we'll learn as we're going. But you know, it's early days, but what I can definitely see is now a change, and certainly with the teams coming to talk to our trustees recently, the board, and that will continue. Hearing their stories, I think, and hearing the story of change from people that we're supporting and their staff teams, what was before and what's now, that's where it's compelling, and I think that's where the momentum will come.
And I think just to finish up, because I'm conscious of time, there was a question from Hugh. How long is this journey of change for us all? The journey is as long as it takes. And I think actually what we're trying to do isn't just change the way we work at Choice Support. What we would really love is for people to see what we're doing and take this, and actually it is something that has the potential change the way that we run social care in the future of the whole country. So thank you for listening.
Thank you.
Wow, that was great. Thank you both. I think I'm sitting here thinking that we as a group of organisations have done a lot of work together, feel very proud of our intention to enable people to live a life full of opportunities and everything we've heard today. But I think what you've very eloquently just set out is that from an organisational perspective, that there in order for this to be business as usual, and there are cultural shifts that need to happen. And I absolutely love the bringing the whole self to work, because if you remember back to the first slide, those characteristics of what we all need to do, it's really creating a sense of us, not us and them. And I think bringing your whole self emotionally, from a talent perspective, from an interest perspective, to break down that divide is really, really key. So that's amazing. Thank you. I'm really conscious of the time. So I think that Sarah, Maguire and Hugh were just going to spend a few minutes just doing a little bit of mopping up, but we do need to factor in that we do have a last presentation that is probably between 5 and 10 minutes, which is hearing more stories. So and that as Paul will describe, that's a platform that all these wonderful stories we've heard today and more, everybody can jump onto that platform, as Paul will describe. So we probably don't have a time for another comfort break, and I just think maybe just hand over to Hugh and Sarah just for some final reflections, and then we can hand over to Paul and Ian for the last sort of 5-10 minutes. Is that okay?
That's fine. What would you like to do, Sarah?
What would I like? Okay, well, I think this morning what we've heard, if we're linking all of those stories to Social Care Futures, and to, as some of you will know, there's an appreciative inquiry that Social Care Futures are doing. So they have a panel of people with learning disabilities who are really thinking about, you know, how do we make some of this stuff real? What does the future look like? How can we get examples? And I think what we've heard this morning, and I know if we have more time or breakout rooms, there are 50 odd people in this room that have also, you've got your own stories. And I think it's how we gather those together so that they can go into this inquiry, so that we're looking at those sort of, you know, shared stories of change. And I think also challenge in each of the stories we've heard this morning. There's been a push about wanting something different. So I just think it's about making sure that we can keep this momentum and add this to the work of Social Care Futures and between ourselves, because Ashley started off by talking about collaboration. We are 5 organisations that have collaborated, but there's a huge, you know, number out there that, you know, that we'd love to do more with. How do we nurture the creativity that we've heard this morning? Because it's just been amazing. And I think that real human connection, because I think from Emily and Rory, you know, the word that just kept coming back and back into my head was love. You know, to be loved, being loved, and, you know, that's what makes the world go round. That's all I wanted to say.
I think very quickly before the film, I was just reflecting on what we'd heard, and if we'd had more time, we would have opened this up. But I was just picking up on as Dan was ending his session there, talking about a sense of journey, and I think that's what we've heard in this really fantastic session. We've heard a journey, and Sarah was mapping out business as usual, business as unusual, and then the final bit for me is taking that unusual and making the unusual business as usual. I mean, that certainly is what I was hearing. But finally, what was quite profound was all of these journeys and these passionate projects have not been driven by local authorities, have they? They've not been driven by commissioners. They've not been driven by self-government. They've actually been driven by the people with lived experience who use services, who all 5 of us are putting at the heart. Slowly at times, because it's difficult change is difficult, but we're putting people at the heart of driving that change, you know, and pulling that change rather than being pushed into models of care. I've been absolutely blown away today, and I know that the biggest legacy we can have is that we keep talking, keep collaborating, keep sharing bravely, which is what these organizations have done. Really brave in sharing some of the stuff that for some, you know, for all of us, it's cost a lot of people's time and money to develop this stuff, and we're just saying, have a bit of this, have a look at it, what do you think, and can I learn from you? And I think, you know, for me, it's been a lovely session. Thanks to everyone, and I'll hand back to Sarah Burslem to sort of finish off with quite a funky little platform, I think.
Yeah, well, I hope so. And Julie and Gaynor have been putting on in the chat some more sessions around the appreciative inquiry that's going on, so we just all need to make sure we're making those links. And we're going to finish today with a platform where more stories have been shared about people's experiences, in particular during the lockdown. And I wonder whether that is our vision is that will be a platform that is managed and owned by people with lived experiences, and to grow and develop in whatever way people want it to develop. And so I guess the question to all of us on this session today is, if you want to connect with this platform, I think Paul will probably tell us how we can do that, and let's just see how it grows. and whether it has a role to play in either part of the appreciative inquiry or just in the future of all of your lives. So I'm going to hand over to Paul, and I believe I've seen Ian on the call as well. So welcome both of you. Hi Ian, nice to see you. Hi Paul. So you're just going to tell us a little bit more about the Our Voices platform, and show us a little film, I think.
Oh yeah, a little presentation, but yeah, there's links to the films for people to check out if they want to as well. But yeah, so if I share our screen, so we're going to put on our, oh, should make that a bit bigger. Okay, so yes, let me just go into full screen.
Yes.
So everyone can see that? Yeah, thumbs up. Okay, so yeah, introduction. I'm Paul Payne from McIntyre. I'm based in Milton Keynes, and I'm working on self-advocacy and co-production projects at the moment. And I'm here with my colleague.
I'm from Southampton.
Yeah, so we both represent the Shout Out group in Milton Keynes. So yeah, I'll just give you a little bit of background about how we got involved with the Our Voices platform, which we're here to talk about. So yeah, it was a co-production in lockdown. So yeah, like Ian says, we both come from the Shout Out advocacy group in Milton Keynes. So in a pre-COVID world, we used to meet up and have our quarterly meetings and talk about all sorts of things. So what did we talk about in our Shout Out meetings, Ian?
I think we talk about what's going to happen in the future, that sort of thing.
Yeah. Did some voting, didn't we?
Yeah, we did, yeah.
Yeah, we went out and voted and things. So relationships, health, all of that sort of stuff. And yeah, a lot of this, the stuff that we talked about got turned into films, and we have got a platform called Shout Out TV, which I've got a link to, where all of our stuff is shared.
Yeah.
So one of the things I myself, sort of at the beginning of lockdown, was working in people's houses. So we were moving from a day service setting to moving into to working with people in the houses. And one of the projects that came out of that was a web series called Lockdown Diaries. And that's Ian there sticking his tongue out at everyone. But yeah, so we found this was a really good, we're working with people in the homes, and people had a lot to say, a lot of things that they were worried about. So we felt that this platform was a really good way of getting those views out there. So yeah, that leads us on to Our Voices. So as you guys all know, there was the more than a provider core group, which includes all of us guys working together. And again, in a pre-COVID world, we'd planned lots of projects. We'd all met together in London and planned lots of things, but COVID came, so we had to change the way we worked. And the CEOs of all the organisations got together, and they came up with something that would work in this new world. So the mission statement behind that was to continue to ensure that the voice of the disabled would continue to be heard amongst all the social reform noise. And coupled with the challenges of the pandemic, they needed a place where people could share their hopes and dreams for the future. So that led to the creation of a website called Our Voices. It's a platform not just for stories, but for artwork, for everything, people's experiences, good and bad. Please check it out, because there's so much stuff on there, positive and negative, just from the people we support. Ian, you're on there, aren't you, talking about?
Yeah,
Yeah, so Ian went through so what happened to you at the beginning of the lockdown?
I went to Mum and Dad for 14 weeks.
So yeah, Ian stayed with his mum and dad for 14 weeks. So his story's on there. So you went from living in your own flat, didn't you, to going back?
I did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But was there any positives during that time, do you think?
I'm not sure.
What did you do during that time?
Well, I did big 10 challenges for charity.
Yeah, Ian did. Ian did 10 challenges for charity. So he found positives out of his negatives, and
yeah.
Yeah, how much money did you make for?
It was about £500.
So yeah, made £500 during lockdown. So that story's on there, but there's stories from all of our organisations, and yeah, going into a second lockdown now, it's as vital a thing as ever, I think.
Yeah.
But the outcomes from it, I felt we had people we support had a voice during times of change and anxieties. It's a good way to support people's worries and feelings, help people stay connected to each other. It's a great time capsule, so we can look back on this one day, hopefully, fingers crossed. So a chance to rebuild confidence and rediscover themselves, the people involved. And yeah, having a voice in creating a new normal. And what's worked well, like?
Yeah, yeah.
Like getting your 5 Stone Award.
Yeah, yeah, that's right, yeah.
Yeah, thanks to Joe Wicks, Ian got his 5 Stone Award during lockdown as well. So
I did.
Yeah, it's like a lot of you guys have said today. There's been a lot of positives out of this, and the fact that we're all together talking today in this format is one of them, I think.
Yeah.
So yeah, the platform has a potential to get as big and grow as big as we want to, and to tackle anything that we want to talk about, and that co-production aspect of it is something quite unique, I think, because yeah, it's 5 organisations, and it'll be great to kind of give it a bit of a relaunch now, and as we're moving into this new lockdown. And yeah, so the top link there is the actual website, so please do check it out. You won't regret it. And yeah, just another couple of links there to the Shout Out TV project and the McIntyre lockdown diaries that we're doing ourselves. But yeah, my email's there, so if anyone wants to contact me about getting involved, I can put that information forward to all the other organisations, and we can work together and make this thing really something powerful for the future. But yeah, thanks for your time.
Yeah.
Thank you, Paul. Do you want to stop sharing your screen?
Yes, I will.
Thanks, Paul. Thanks, Ian.
Okay. I can find these. Where's the button gone? Oh, God.
Thank you. It's brilliant, that.
So as Paul and Ian were saying, that I think any of our organisations, what we'll do when we send out the slides for this overall presentation, we'll include, there are technical people in all 5 organisations, I think it's fair to say, if colleagues can just nod, that can help anybody who's listening, watching. If you know of anybody who has a story to tell, who wants to get involved in sharing stories on the platform, or indeed and managing the platform, then there's techie people who you can be connected with to do that. But please do check the platform out and listen to some of those stories. They are truly amazing. They're fantastic.
I suppose it's worth saying, Sarah, that we're really keen to see where this goes, really, this platform. We as organizations have just kind of given it a helping start, and we're there kind of behind the scenes to try and see how we can continue to help people share their stories, be that people with lived experience, family members, support workers. So if you've got ideas about ways that we can share it with more people, enable it to be used as a platform for something that would help you to enable a stronger voice or a voice to be heard, please do get in touch, because none of us, we don't own it, and we don't want to own it, really. We want to create the space that will allow it to be used for its greatest purpose, which is to get people's voices heard in a powerful and constructive way. So all ideas are welcome. Thank you.
Absolutely. Okay, well, that brings us to the end of our session. So just a few minutes early, which we can all go and have our comfort break before the next session. So just to say thank you to everybody for all of your time, and hope to see some of you in some other events as the next couple of days progresses. So
Wonderful.
We'll say goodbye.
Thank you all. Take care.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank
Bye.
you.